Hello and welcome to the newest edition of the Sunday Scaries. I'm Luke Janesco,
And I'm Dylan Newell.
and another week here and another plethora of horror news. And all you have to do is stop in at the Sunday Scaries, and we have all your horror news blended and ready for your consumption here. A lot of big news coming out this week. Probably some of the biggest news in the horror community is the Black Phone hitting theaters. And Dylan, me and you had went and saw that. We do have a non-spoiler review up here on the channel, so if you haven't checked it out, definitely go check it out. It is highly recommended. Still
Hmm.
that hangover because I mean, we've seen a few things in the theater already this year, and maybe didn't really hit for us. But I'll say the Black Phone still riding that high. I'm definitely gonna go see it a couple more times probably this week.
Yeah, I mean, if I can get to the theater to see it again, I definitely will. But like the turnaround for, some of these movies coming out on Blu-ray and streaming is so quick that like before I know it, it's just going to show up on Vudu and I'll be able to watch it at my leisure,
Yeah,
which is very nice with a 4-month-old. So, it's at least for the next year or two, I'm probably going to be, not as frequently visiting the theater to see things multiple times because, especially for me, this time of year is like, the big time of year for me where I want to see a bunch of stuff. Like I saw Top Gun and Jurassic World and all these other things, but I can really only get to them maybe once.
yeah,
Now, where I might break that rule, depending on how it is, but I guess it also depends on how they're going to release it, would be Halloween Ends, just because whether that's if that's great, there's going to be a lot to talk about because we have some thoughts on the first two. But if it's bad, there's going to be still a lot to talk about. So, it's one of
yeah.
those things where that might warrant multiple viewings for me. But yeah, the Black Phone, awesome. I enjoyed the heck out of that. It's still fresh in my mind. I've been recommending it to friends and family all this week. They've checked out our review. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's really that good?" And like some of them, surprisingly, were saying that they actually didn't think that it looked all that interesting. So
Really?
I was shocked to see that. But they're not horror fans. They're not a part of the community. Like they watch horror movies very standardly and passively. Some of the people that I spoke with, but then a couple of my buddies who are big horror fans were really happy to hear that it was good because they had curiosity, but they weren't 100% on board if they were going to check it out or not.
Yeah, and I think maybe I guess I can understand where that's coming from. Maybe they think Ethan Hawke's performance is a little over the top. And again, going back to the mask, maybe it looks a little cheesy just straight out of the gate. I don't know. Uh, but this isn't like a Michael Myers or a Pennywise where I feel like you're either in or you're out in terms of like the horror community where it's like, oh, it's a psycho clown. I don't know if I'm on board, so I'm really gonna steer clear of that. But it's like with this, I don't know. I just feel like it's a little more relatable, especially like things like that Zodiac, where it's like there's a killer and it's more based in reality. I feel like are a little more relatable to people.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like, I think that people will be surprised with just how much more base this looks. Because I went back and editing our review, I had to watch some of the trailer, and they really like to push that supernatural aspect of it. I think they kind of have to, but like,
Yeah,
I felt like the movie is a lot more balanced than the trailer leads on.
yeah,
But again, I mean, it's just like it's just one of those things where it's just kind of like if it's not an established IP, you know that it's a little bit harder to get people to go sit down and actually see it. But I do think this movie will have legs, and I hope that this movie, like Sinister, I feel like with a lot of people, like when it came out, it had some good reception, but over the years, a lot more people have kind of picked up on that. And they really enjoy that movie now. I hear a lot of people, like I see a lot of video essays about Sinister.
yeah.
So it's one of those things where I just hope this movie has legs. I think that this is definitely Scott Derrickson's best film. So I'm really excited to see what he does next, as if he stays on this path. But yeah, I enjoyed the Black Phone thoroughly.
That's something we will definitely dive into probably in long form and unpack in a longer form podcast at some point because I know we're both probably going to be picking that one up. I know I am, and I can see you totally owning that one. So
Oh yeah,
it'll
no,
definitely be one.
this will be one I'll be picking up. I'm just we got to figure out when I think the best time to cover it would be. Maybe the month of October. Maybe we'll bust it out when we get closer to Halloween. I don't know. We'll have
Well,
to see.
We'll have to start planning that October schedule like we've had
I
in
know.
in the past and then never followed through. So maybe this year, this year
I
will be
I
our year.
I think this year will be our year. We're 13 videos deep, 4 Sunday Scaries, and what, 4 Splattercasts? 5 now? I'm running out of
4, right?
4. Yeah, we're always, you gotta remember, guys, we already have certain shows planned out in our heads. So like what you can view is 4, but we have 6 already thought out. So it's like,
So we're good to
but
go. And
yeah,
maybe we'll dive into the Friday 13th box set like we had planned.
I'd love to. I mean, it's been a minute. She's been sitting on the shelf over there. I haven't taken her out in a minute, but I need to. I've been getting a hankering to watch some Friday the 13th movies recently.
You know, you're always going to go back to that Jason Lives Part 6. I mean,
Absolutely. It's my favorite.
which brings us to a new little topic we have here on the Sunday Scaries. I was talking to Dylan. I was like, I think we need to do something a little visual on the pod or the show. This isn't a podcast, I guess, but so something kind of unique into its own here. So, what we will be doing every week here on the podcast, again, the show,
You can call it a
is
podcast. It's fine.
kill of the week. And as you can see at the top here, we already have the kill planned out, which is Jason Lives Part 6, which is the opening here. So let's take a look at what is almost the full opening here of Jason Lives Part 6.
Yeah,
Um,
I love this movie to death. Like I don't think it's been stated enough. Maybe if you go back to some of our older episodes or listen to some of By Admission, but this is by far my favorite Friday the 13th. And just what an opening.
you're already like ready to go. I mean, they open
Mhm,
up a couple of quick scenes and then we're already driving and now we're in the cemetery and this is only a few minutes in here and now
mhm,
we're reanimating Jason Voorhees here, which I love because it's so different than what we have been seeing in the past.
And it's very much that it harkens a lot. And I know the director, Tom McLaughlin, talks about this a lot in just his coverage, especially on Crystal Lake Memories, is his inspiration of, again, I feel like I've been bringing it up almost every show we talk about, but the whole going back to those classic horror films from Universal Monsters, so much of that imagery lives and breathes in this film. And I think that you can just tell that he was a fan of horror, classic horror, 80s slashers. He really found a great way to blend the genres together. And I guess not the separate genres, but just the styles together.
And when you know what he's shooting for here, you just absolutely love it. Like you're 100% on board with the lightning, the rod, where it's all just so convenient. It's like it was a means to an end here. And I love these shots of Jason, the close ups of the eye and the maggots. I think that was so well done. And
Hmm.
now we have him kind of coming out of his little tomb here. I just love his look here, covered in cobwebs. Tommy's got the plan of drenching him in gasoline here. Um, this is such a where your heart's already racing as you're just as this opening's going.
No, I agree. I think that this is a really strong way to start off the Friday the 13th because at this point, Um, they start kind of slow. You get the recap, and then normally they kind of introduce your characters, and it's a gradual build up. This one, they were just like, "Fuck it! Like this is the sixth movie. Let's just have fun with it. Let's just bring Jason back as a zombie, and let's just go full bore." And here it
And
is.
boom. That is what a kill at the very beginning here. I mean, that is one of the most vicious. I mean, there's a lot of great kills in Jason Lives, but this one really sets the tone. I think the punching right through the chest, which kind of sets the dynamic of this film.
Hmm. It does definitely set it apart. It lets people know that, Jason, although he's been strong and he's been, intimidating and a force to be reckoned with, he is now undead, and now he has that undead strength and that kind of supernatural twinge to him now that really elevates him, I think, a couple more notches into that this is something you do not want to fuck with kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
and with the lightning, the rain, I just love that kinda, Tommy came in with a full plan, and then, of course, it starts to storm, and it all goes to hell,
Mhm.
and that ending part, the scene that we ended on where he finally turns toward the camera, I mean, and then we go right into the credits. I mean, absolutely perfect. Really, really different. Because is this the first one where we didn't get that opening? I can't remember if part five had the campfire recap of everything, or did five not have that? I can't remember, but
I
I know
don't
six
know.
does.
I believe five had the revamp where they always go through the other movies.
Okay.
Uh, this one to me though, I agree with you. This stands out as the first time that we really don't get that. But I think it serves the movie well. I think it just kind of it elevates Jason to that next era of just being able to say, like, okay, you know, we're doing something different here. We are pushing him into a little bit more of a not as serious of an area, like where we can have more fun with this, where we can be a little bit more over the top. Like again, I think the sentiment that keeps getting brought up by like all the actors and Tom McLaughlin especially is that this is Friday the 13th part 6. Like we don't have to, go as dark and dour and serious anymore. We can do
Play with,
whatever and the
play with
audience is
space.
already going to show up.
Yeah, they're ready to see Jason kill. At this point, when you're in part six territory, you know what the audience is there for.
Absolutely.
Um, so it's like let's take a look at the actual kill itself one more time. Him lighting the matches here. I mean, what a great what a great start here. And then you
It
have the maggots falling off of him. I think that's
mhm.
so great.
Yeah, it really
It
just
just looks
shows that
terrifying.
that oh shit kind of like yeah, like everything that could go wrong is going wrong for Tommy Jarvis here. But yeah, I think that this kill is not only so vicious and visceral, but it's simple. I mean, it is simply just him pushing his hand through the chest, bringing out the heart. I mean, like that's it's something that to this point, we haven't seen that, and I think it
Yeah.
really does a great job of presenting Jason's newfound powers.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we could use this as another kill of the week later on, but I feel like I need to mention it while I'm on there. When he kills the guy and gets the machete and he rips his arm off and he's holding it, it's just one of those things where it's just like you. I love that look of Jason kind of realizing his power. He's just kind of realizing like shit's a little different here, and
And
it adds so much.
And that's where because I think that's very early on too. That's before he even gets to the camp. So it's like him walking through the woods. So that's one of the early on kills as well. So it's like I think this kill and that kill are so meaningful for us to understand what is happening with Jason, that he is fully undead here. And the electricity brought him back to life, and you're on board with it. It's like a little tongue in cheek, but still very vicious. That's why I think that Alan Hawes kill at the beginning here really sets the tone of what we're going to see in this film and down the line of what Jason eventually becomes. So I think
Yeah.
this is such a pivotal kill in the entire franchise.
At least, if you're a deep cut Friday the 13th fan, this one sticks out to you for sure.
Yeah,
I know that they have a lot of the big ones. I know for a lot of people that aren't as deeply invested in the series with like the him impaling the two people on the bed having sex. The kill with Kevin Bacon is a big one from the first one that everybody loves. But yeah, once you get like deep in the weeds on Friday the 13th, like this just again, and I said it a little bit before, is just it sets the tone for what we're about to get into.
yep. Well, we have to thank Mr. Alan Hawes for giving us such a wonderful kill here. So let's have a moment of silence for one of our favorite characters in the Jason franchise.
Poor bastard. He didn't deserve that. He just went out there. He was just trying to help his buddy. But I do got to say, last little bit before we move on here, I love the little twinge of him just falling into the coffin. And
I know.
the resolution of that is hilarious in and of itself. So,
And that's where it's like, he already had a ready-made grave, so
mhm.
didn't have to pay for a funeral. But it's just like I love that all those moving parts there where, he didn't even want to be there. He's trying to talk Tommy out of it completely. Tommy's the one that gets away. He falls in the grave, and then uh the caretaker obviously doesn't want to get in trouble, so just assumes that's Jason, and we cover him back up so no one believes Tommy. It's just such a great dynamic to start. people think sometimes Jason Lives is a little tongue in cheek, but when you really look at all the moving parts here, so many likable characters, so much fun, and it really is a well thought out script, I feel.
Oh yeah, no, I would agree 100%. It will be one that we cover on this show at least a couple of times, I think. Because like it is definitely, like I said at the top here, my favorite Friday the 13th. I believe yours is 4 still,
Yeah,
or I
this is
know
my
that was a
second.
couple of years ago. So, but yeah, I mean, this is definitely a close second for you, as you've always said. So, like, it, and I get that. Like, it's one of those things where 4 and 6 they tend to flip flop for me, and
Yep.
then I've loved 2, I love 3. Basically, with the exclusion of 5, which I still watch 5 just to kind of get the Jarvis storyline. That first run, that first everything from you know the first film to, I would say, even to part 7, all great. I really think that's prime Friday the 13th. You don't start falling off the wagon till he gets to Manhattan.
Yeah,
So
and that's where it's like I feel like there's really no coming back from that, where it's like, 7's okay, could have been really good, but once you get to Manhattan, it's just like, I don't even know where we're going here, and who knows we know what happens after that, but it's like, even the ending of Manhattan, it's like, well, where do we even go?
right, especially with him just dissolving back into, doesn't he turn to a little boy again?
Yes.
One, just so weird. So weird. Friday the 13th. Gotta love it. Still my favorite slasher franchise.
Uh, well, hopefully that kill will get you through the week when you're sitting at your desk, listening to someone talk to you about something you don't even care about, and you just want to drive that stapler right through their eye. Just think back to the Sunday Scaries of when Mr. Alan Hawes got punched right through the heart by Jason Voorhees. All right, let's get into some actual news for the week here. Fathom celebrated the 40th anniversary of John Carpenter's The Thing last weekend, but not how they expected. Mick Garris, director of the masterpiece Critters 2: The New Batch, took to Twitter saying to avoid the screening like the plague. Reportedly, Fathom showed the Carpenter classic in the incorrect aspect ratio, thus cutting off a third of the film. Fathom corrected the aspect ratio dilemma for the Wednesday viewing and apologized to the moviegoers. Does this make you lose faith in future Fathom events and appreciate those 4K Blu-rays now more than ever?
Yeah, I mean, this was just something that we planned on going to see this. I think we talked
Yeah, we
about
talked
it, but
about it.
it just kind of snuck up on us like real
Yeah,
quick
I didn't even
before we
realize
knew
it
it.
was happening.
Yeah, no, I knew it was sometime in June, but then before I knew it, I'm looking at my phone. It's like, oh my god, it's the end of the month already. Uh, so yeah, we didn't get a chance to see this, but it's all good. I have my Steelbook Blu-ray 4K right here. Gets lots of use. So it's one of those things where I love that movie. I am gonna have to see it on the big screen at some point, but I'm actually happy that we skipped out on this because I would have
Yeah,
had to have seen it on a weekend, and it looks like they didn't get their shit together till Wednesday. So
yeah.
yeah,
I think it would have been such a mistake. I mean, like, I don't know if you have enough thought to put the thing back in theaters for a few days as a big event. How do you not make sure that it looks great? Because it's like
yeah.
that's what people are coming to see. They really want to see it in its entirety. You can't really cut it off and be like, "Man, it'll be fine." Like, those are diehard fans coming to see this film. So it's like you have to make sure everything is perfect, especially when there's so many formats out there for the thing. It's like you're going for that experience because you could easily pop it in on your Blu-ray player at home and then just have a night. And it's like, so you're going out to experience it with a lot of moviegoers who love the film itself. So you want to see it in that perfect condition. And it's like, to kind of do this is such a big misstep. Like, I know the news came out that it made like 500,000, I think, at the box office, which is a pretty big deal for an event like that. But I mean, how do you not take care of this film right out of the gate?
Yeah, I mean, like it's unfortunate, but I think with the thing is like Fathom has been around for a long time, and they do these event films every summer. They're always just pushing them out, and I think at this point, especially like coming out of the pandemic, I don't think they had all their P's and Q's set up. Everything was just kind of like, okay, we're gonna do this. Maybe we'll get 5 to 10 people per screening, and I guess they just didn't think that the love for John Carpenter's The Thing was going to you know, I guess go out and force for this film. And I guess they didn't think
Yeah.
that they'd have such hardcore fans. They thought maybe they'd get a couple of casual moviegoers, which I just think is a bit of like oversight that just they just missed the mark entirely with that, because like this is, in my opinion, like this is my favorite horror film of all time, and I know that it's a few horror fans' favorite horror film of all time as
Yeah.
well. I think that this sits right there with like Halloween, the original Friday the 13th, stuff like that. I mean, like it is in its own class. I mean, it's an all-time classic. The effects are incredible. The cast is amazing, and just the way the Carpenter chooses to frame and tell this story makes it endlessly rewatchable. And it's like I could go on a whole soapbox here about it, but I just think overall, I hope this is a big lesson for Fathom. I hope that they really actually decide to take more care and understanding when they put something like this in theaters. And I don't want to see this happen again, because like I said, I'd love to go see this in theaters, but if we're talking about just some kind of half-ass slap together, like we're just putting it out there, it's the movie, but it's not presented in the proper way that it should be. And I know to some of you casual fans, this might be seen as nitpicky, but like if it's not in the proper aspect ratio in a theater, that's going to affect the entire experience of the film, because it will look off and it will look weird, and things have a tendency to, not sync up properly in that way. And
Yeah.
you will have total, like, whole sequences where you are missing stuff, where it's like you could have a portion, like, the framing just doesn't look right. Like someone's entire face could be on screen, but like he looks like he's pushed over to the left for some reason, so it's just anything like that. And for them, like, this is their whole job. Like Fathom Events puts on these events in theaters and other things that they do. You would think that there would just be more care in something like this.
And it's where it's like, I don't feel like it's nitpicky in any sense, where if you're going to the theater, you want that theater experience. If it's like a random, I go to a used media store and I buy a DVD and I'm upset that it's not like the crisp, clear picture that I want, I feel like that's nitpicky. But if I'm going to the theater to see something, I want to see it in its entirety. I don't want anything cut off. I want it to be as crisp as possible, because I am, at the end of the day, paying to attend this event. So it's like, um, I feel like you have to have that care, because I think I talked about it. I don't know if it was a Sunday Scaries episode or it was one of the podcasts, but it was in the past month or two. But where I talked about, there are a handful of films where I feel like they are extreme filmmaking, where it's like The Shining, and The Thing is also in there. So it's like you have great horror films, but then you have that elite class of horror films where I think The Thing falls into that. So, it'd be like showing The Shining in the incorrect aspect ratio. So it's like you really have to take care of certain films. So to kind of have the misstep like this for the film that they're showing, I think is a little tone deaf. The fans are hardcore fans. They want to see it. They want to experience it. Most of the people that are going to this probably didn't see the original film in the theater, so they really wanted to come back and see it. Like I've seen John Carpenter's Halloween in the theater, because they were hosting an event and I really wanted to see it, and it was a lovely experience, to actually see that, to actually go into a theater and witness the original Halloween theme and John Carpenter's work on the big screen like that. So it's such a memorable event that you really have to take care of that stuff. You can't just let it pass by and be like, oh, the fans will take anything. Oh, wait a minute, we have an event coming up in a week. Well, this aspect ratio is fine. You really have to handle it with care, because if not, this is exactly what's going to happen with Twitter being a thing, social media, so many accessible ways to kind of get your opinion out there, especially when someone like Mick Garris goes to see it. And with his influence in the horror community, I mean, all it took was one tweet, and now they had to pivot and redo it. So it's like they fixed something that shouldn't have been an issue to begin with, but it's such a tone deaf move to, hey, we're going to put John Carpenter's The Thing in theaters, but we're not going to we're not going to take the care to make sure that it's the aspect ratio that it should be. It's a huge fumble in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's unfortunate, I guess, for Fathom Events because they had somebody who runs a very successful horror podcast. So if he's tweeting about it or getting it out there, like, it's going to get around the horror community. And I think it is leaving a bad taste in horror fans' mouths. It will definitely make me think twice before spending my money on a Fathom event. But I think the fact that they did, we can give them their lashing, but the fact that they were proactive about it and they came out and they said they were going to do it. I believe the screening on Wednesday did go perfectly fine. So hopefully they've learned their lesson and this is just a brief misstep and this isn't going to be a trend, but we'll see.
We'll see what happens. I mean, like, I'd be willing to attend another Fathom event, depending on, especially with this. I feel like they will be a little mindful of uh, upcoming film events to make sure that they don't have an uproar like this. Because I mean, you get like one pass, and that's it. So I'm curious to see if anything else will arise. But I feel like I will have a little more faith in Fathom now that they've kind of hopefully learned their lesson, especially pivoting and fixing that Wednesday viewing. But we'll see. But I'm not going to rule out attending an event, especially if it's The Shining or I'm sure if Jaws is there, you may go clear your schedule to go check it
It's
out.
another one I gotta go see. I really gotta get up on seeing some of these movies in theaters, man. Like I should have when I was younger and had more time, but yeah, I really need to get out there and see them.
The wait is over for the second half of Stranger Things season 4 part 2. Kind of, anyway. The trailer showing off the hijinks the kids from Hawkins will be getting into during the last couple of episodes of the season dropped online this week, teasing an ultimate showdown between Eleven and your favorite big bad from the Upside Down, Vecna. The Duffer said you can expect a much darker ending to season 4, and Noah Schnapp said, "We've got some deaths coming." It is safe to say not everyone is making it out alive this season. Will the Duffer Brothers play it safe and kill off some minor characters, or will the D&D party get a little smaller after July 1st? Now, I don't know. This one I go back and forth with. Maybe they could kill one of the mainstay characters, but I really don't know if they're going to do it at the end of season 4. I definitely see it happening in season 5, but I just don't know if season 4 may be a little early.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna hate me for this. I still have one episode left in Stranger Things to watch. I have not seen the full ending. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But I have for a little update. I am enjoying it. I like the season. I'm just broken and fucked up and weird, I guess. So, but yeah, I don't know, man. I really don't know. And granted, I don't know where we leave off,
Yeah.
but I don't know who out of the main trio of kids who could you kill? Because I mean, like, I feel like killing somebody before the last season
Yeah.
is. I feel like that's not the best play. But again, I'm not the Duffer Brothers and I'm not writing this series, so I don't know what they feel is the best play. And for me personally, with us getting another season, I do want to bring up I don't know if this Vecna character is necessarily going to die.
Yeah.
Because he kind of seems like the best and biggest culmination of this whole upside down world and everything. So it's kind of like I think that you need to keep him on for another season unless they have another big bad. But I feel like that would be kind of redundant at this
Yeah.
point.
Where it's like, because what they talk about the mind flayer kind of being like the puppet master in a sense, but I don't feel like you're going to get a lot of interplay with the mind flayer. So it's like I feel like Vecna's probably your go-to guy, and then last episode of the entire series is really when you take on like the mind flayer. But Vecna seems like your big boss that you kind of go with um throughout throughout most of it. So it's like, yeah, I'm kind of with you. I feel like I see, and that's where I feel like we could end season 4 with Vecna having the upper hand and
Yeah.
us really not know where we're gonna go. Because I think like with the ending here that you haven't seen, where you kind of feel like Vecna's still a little more in power, and I feel like maybe coming back into it from part 2, people would be like, oh, okay, because we're gonna kind of get some sort of resolution going into season 5, but I feel like it's going to be a fake out where it's like it's going to get even worse in part 2, and that's really where it's going to leave off. So it's like I could, if they're going to kill a character, one of the main cast, I feel like it happens at that's how season 4 would end. We don't even get to see the reaction. That's just how it ends, and then season 5 would pick up. Well, they said they're going to do a time jump, which I feel
Hmm.
like could also be kind of a cop out. If you kill a character at the end of season 4, then we open up with season 5, and it's like, nah, all the characters have had 5 years to deal with such and such. So it's like you don't have to really. It's a way not to write yourself into that corner of having to deal with it. So I don't know. Maybe they could kill someone right at the end there because it kind of leaves it open.
Yeah, I mean, like it would definitely be a ballsy play. Um, I'm just trying to rack my head on who I think might bite the bullet. I already know from social media that Steve Harrington does not die at the end of this. He seems like he'd be a natural fit for that. Unfortunately, like him. I really thought. I mean, spoilers, I guess, for this new season, but everybody's had time to watch it, including myself. So, uh, it's one of those things where it's like I felt like when Vecna and Max were facing off in that scene where he was raising her up and everything,
Yeah,
I was pretty certain she was going to die right there. And then they didn't. So, if they end up killing Max, it's kind of like, or you kind of pulled your punch already on that one.
yeah.
So it's kind of like, I feel like it won't have the desired effect. But I could be totally wrong. I don't see Hopper or anybody like that dying as far as the adult characters go. It's really tough. Like I don't really know where the most natural fit is going to be. And I guess maybe that's the intention. Maybe it's
Yeah.
just they don't want us to know who's going to die and it's going to be a shock. Maybe Will dies. I don't know. Like, I mean, they've kind of sidelined him for the most part so far from what I've seen in this
And
story. So,
that's what I mean, where it's like kind of like that half of the story was a little, for me, underwhelming and not as intriguing as the rest of the story. It seemed like they were just trying to give those characters something to do in line and almost in certain scenes stretching that, just show them off because it was like, I don't know what we do here. So I mean, like maybe one of those characters, like you're saying, maybe Will. I don't know. Maybe Will turns evil. Who knows?
that's
But
been hinted at for a long time. People have really thought that
yeah.
Will was going to be a bad guy for one of the final seasons.
And I mean, maybe he's the go-to after Vecna. Who knows? But like, since it was spoiled for you for social media, like my pick would be Steve, where he's not technically part of the main cast since they were gonna kill him off in season 1. So it's like, well, now we've extended his shelf life, and now we're gonna make a impactful bookmark to season 4, the ending to it. So I don't know. I hope that doesn't happen. I love Steve,
I was going to
but I
say I
could
hate
totally.
you. Don't say that.
What'd you say?
I was going to say I hate you. Don't say that. Don't take Steve.
And see, that's what I mean, where it's like it has that feeling. Everyone's gonna be so pissed off about it. So it's like he's the only one that I could really call that would have such a meaning for fans to be almost in an uproar and ready to take Vecna's head. So he's really the only one that I could see.
Yeah, but see, like season 3 really swung me into the Steve Harrington Robin storyline, and I still really like their dynamic with the three of them and like him, her, and Nancy
Yeah,
in this season so far. But it's just like, God, I don't know, man. Like I'm already teetering on this show so hard. Like as you can tell, I haven't finished it yet. So it's like if they kill Steve, I'm kind of gonna be like, dude, I don't know. Like Ugh, it just it would I feel like it would have like at least for me. I know this has a lot of fans and a lot of people that really love it. But it's just one of those things where for me it would maybe deter me from being I'm gonna watch it, but I'd be less excited
yeah.
for the next season because it's just
Well,
like
but in terms of story, where they've been playing the whole Nancy Steve thing, where Robin's like, oh well, Nancy didn't even hesitate or was that Eddie said that, where she didn't even hesitate to jump in after Steve, and that's love right there. So it's like they're hinting at it so hard, and we all want that him to get with Nancy, that and Steve to find love. I feel like it would just like rip out your throat to see Steve die before he ever actually gets in that relationship with Nancy or finds love in general. So
I
I
don't
think
think I even want him to get with Nancy though. They've
no,
already
I don't
done
either. I don't
that.
like
Like
Nancy.
they already did have a, they already dated. They already did that in the first season. I think like, it's, and I know they're trying to kind of force this rocky relationship with Nancy, and I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Uh he just hasn't been in this season very much. Will's brother.
Jonathan.
Jonathan, there it is.
I
Yeah, I'm
forgot it
sorry.
too. I was like, I was hoping he's not going to ask me.
Yeah, because I just like it's one of those things where it's like I think that like they've so sidelined him and Will and that whole section of the story that it's kind of it. I just feel like they were in a good place when we left them in season 3, and now it just seems like they're just creating issues. I know it's a long distance thing, but like it just to me like the fact of like I don't understand the justification of why he didn't come to spring break to visit her, why
Yeah.
he's not planning on going to college. It just feels really forced, and I'm just kind of, not connecting as hard with that. And it's just kind of like I don't know if I want Steve and Nancy to get back together. I kind of want that feels like, oh, we've written ourselves into a corner. We don't know where to go with it.
Yeah.
And so to me though, I would just say I would have much rather um see Steve get with somebody else or just drop the whole thing entirely. Maybe he just doesn't need to be with anybody right now. Maybe he's
Yeah.
working on himself. Cause like that was the big thing of season 3, where it's like he's, trying to find somebody to get with. And, Robin is this character that they really do a wonderful job of building and building and building. And then her secret comes out and it's just this crescendo where you're just like, oh no, I'm so crushed for Steve. But at the same time, this is a beautiful thing that, they're able to come out and, feel comfortable and feel accepted and everything. Like it has such a wonderful resolution. That's why I think for me, and I'm just gonna say it, I think that this show has peaked with season 3. I think that although Vecna's a cool bad guy and I really like seeing him on screen, I think that, I don't think it's ever gonna get as good as that.
No, and I agree with you where I think season 3 was, that crescendo that we got. You know what I mean? It's a top tier, and now we're kind of on our not necessarily on our downslope, but I feel like
Can you
we've
reach that height
lowered.
again?
What's that?
Like I guess what you were trying to say maybe is can we get to that height again? I don't know.
Yeah, and that's where it's like maybe with season 5, I don't know, depending on where they go, because the journey's always better than the resolution, I feel. So it's like, you know, coming off of season 2 into season 3, the way they handled season 3 with the 4th of July, all this stuff, I feel like it was just like we're firing on all cylinders here. So we've built ourselves up so high that there really it's not that season 4 is lower in quality, it's just that season 3 was in such high quality that it's hard to kind of sustain that feeling. And then I also think it goes with age, where the kids are getting older, where it's not as fun for the audience anymore. Where it's like now we're dealing more so with adults, and we don't like to see kids that we saw at 12 to be 18. Because there's such a dramatic change, we don't feel that connection anymore. We almost feel like we're looking at different characters. And I think that's playing a part in it. Like season 4, I think the storytelling's been wonderful. I think you have to
No,
really complete the entire.
it's very good so far as the storytelling goes. It's this is most of my complaints for clarification are more of a personal thing. Like I just don't know like if I connect with the show as deep anymore. I just think
Yeah,
that my tastes have evolved and things like that over this time. So and it's just like, I still get into it, like I still watch it and like when I am watching it, I am enjoying it, but it's just when I sit back and think on it, it just doesn't really stay connected with me. I don't know what it is.
yeah, and then that's what I know. It's like there are a billion shows that I've watched season 1 of and that I've loved, and then I just never got into any of it out, any of the other stuff because I was like, nah, I'll get around to it, but I don't really care that much to actually, season 1 was a good fill, so it's like I'll get around to it, but I don't necessarily know if I need it right now. Where Stranger Things, like coming into season 4, I wasn't necessarily overly excited about it. I was like, oh yeah, I actually forgot the date. when it came out, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, that is coming out," and I was like, "Okay, I'll give it a watch." And then once I got into it, I was like, "Okay, now let me watch the next episode and the next episode and the next episode." So I think the quality is there, but I understand what you're saying, where it's like you, especially this series, that big layover from during COVID, where it's like we're waiting on
That
it, doesn't
hurt a
come.
lot. That definitely messed with some of this, I would say. It's tough.
So, I mean, like, I'm intrigued to see what they're gonna do. Steve, I feel like the Nancy relationship is, everyone's probably experienced it where your friend wants to be in a relationship with someone, you're like, why? It doesn't make any sense. They burned you. And I feel like that's what we're supposed to be feeling with Steve, where it's like we don't want to see him with Nancy, but we can tell that's what that character wants. So I think that would be his ideal resolution. Do I think he's going to sacrifice himself for Nancy at some point? I do, and I think we're gonna hate her for it. Um, but I don't think Steve Harrington's making it out of the entire series. So
I'm fine with this series. Wait till the last season.
yeah.
That's my
But
stipulation.
I could very easily see him being the casualty of season 4. Unfortunately,
Well,
um, that would be the pick that would be most likely for me, even though I don't want to see it happen.
I hope you're wrong because
I hope I am too.
that would upset me gravely. But at the same time, again, I get it. It'll happen, and it'll happen the way it's gonna happen, and there's nothing that I can do to stop it because I'm not a writer on the show. So
Maybe one day we'll make our own show and we won't kill anyone. But
yeah,
I do
no,
think that's the
nobody ever
problem with
dies.
it.
No consequences.
One last point for this. I do feel like that's a problem with Stranger Things is they went so long without killing a lot of the cast that now we're experiencing 3 different stories because we can't put them all on screen together because, I mean, what kind of story would you get? So, we have
Yeah,
to break them up into sections so much. Before it was like, I think it was season 2 maybe where it was like Dustin and Steve went off and did their own thing, and I love that they were all separated, but now it's become like the equation of, uh, the end result for Stranger Things where it's like, okay, 2 plus 2 plus 2, so and then eventually it's all gonna equal into the entire cast getting together again. So it's like I think that's one of the big problems is the cast has grew so much that we feel an almost disconnect because we have to go to so many different stories and they're not all together anymore. So I
yeah,
think that's also playing in that part.
yeah. I don't know, but I promise I will. I just checked on the calendar, so it comes out on July 1st.
Yes.
So that's next Friday.
Yep.
So I will make sure to finish this episode. My little Sunday afternoon here, I might just do that, just might finish it out. And then I'll make sure I'm geared up and ready for our review of the ending and I guess our talk in total of the entire season 4 of Stranger Things, which you've already gotten a little bit of my points, but hey, I got to finish it and then who knows, I might come back here next week when we're talking about it and be like the ending sold me completely. I'm the biggest Stranger Things fan there is now.
Obviously. Without question, Dylan. Well, let's move into something I already know are a huge fan of.
Oh, absolutely. I love me some Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Not recently, but I do love the original and two.
We all know you love that 2022 one.
No, no. I do not like that. The part in that movie that I can never get out of my head is the ending where they're in the Tesla and it's driving itself and he pulls her out and he cuts her head off and he's just holding it there. It's like so fucking dumb, dude. Like literally so dumb.
And that's where it's like the movie itself is horrible, and I don't think it could get any worse. But then we get to the ending, and I'm like, well, you've outdone yourself. But let me get
Yeah.
into the actual news.
Mm-mm.
Netflix could be looking to add more films to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. As rumors have hit the internet, the streaming juggernaut could order 2 TCM sequels. The biggest question that determines the Sawyer family's fate is how many viewers did the 2022 release garner? While the reviews turned out not so favorable, the film did seem to catch a lot of eyeballs initially. Regardless, director David Blue Garcia has said that he has some really cool ideas for where the franchise should go. Is there enough gas left in the chainsaw to get more out of the franchise?
God, I
Dylan, I
hope
know you weren't.
no,
Well, I don't think either of
no.
us were thrilled with that 22 uh, film, I don't know that many people that were, because we had that kind of disconnect with Scream, where we saw very positive reviews, but I didn't see anything really for Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No, I mean, and I'll say it, Scream, I at least understand
Yeah,
where some people would actually enjoy that movie, like, and think that it's as good as they say it is. I if you love this movie, I don't get it. Like, I really don't. This felt like such a cold shell of what this original film was, and even what the sequel was. That like I this to me had, and I'm sorry, I'm not here to bash the director. I know it's a hard job, and I know that he replaced other directors coming into this, and everything. But like, it's the I do not want to see what these writers directors have to do with this franchise going forward. They've already proven to me that they don't know what they're doing, and that this is not the way to go, because it's a sequel to the first film, but the continuity is like non-existent. So like the first film happens, and then you're telling me an adult Leatherface goes to an orphanage, but he was a kid, and it's like it just doesn't. I don't want to see that. I mean, I know that it's surged big on Netflix. I know everybody was like, "Holy shit, a fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie." My son was born the week before it came out, so I was actually not working at the time. I was off, so I watched it the morning it came out, and I just was like, "Oh God, what a mess!" And this is very much. I don't think there's any gas left in the tank in this. I think that we need to let Leatherface die for a while and then come back to the well, because he just seems like, of all the slashers, the one that's just taking so much abuse with these reboot this, reboot that. Like, he literally has had, so we had Texas Chainsaw 3D. Well, we had the remakes, which,
yeah,
the remake is not that bad. Like, I actually like the remake.
I'm on that train as well.
Yeah, the beginning was okay, a little
Yeah,
redundant, a little just like, okay, just more Texas Chainsaw. It is what it is. Take it or leave it. Texas Chainsaw 3D was stupid. Then we had Leatherface direct to DVD, stupid, and now we have this, and it's like those are all within the last 10-year gap. Like those three, let it go. Let him die. Just drop it off. We have the game coming out that hopefully will bring out some, but it's again, it's multiplayer. We talked about it. Was that last week? That was our
yeah.
last show. So it's like, we already know our thoughts on that. If not, check us out. It's down below there, Splattercast episode, or no, not Splattercast, Sunday Scaries episode 3. I hope that can bring new life to the franchise, but God, I don't want to see any more abuse to my boy Leatherface.
I don't think the remake is bad in any sense. With the exception of that, I mean, like the TCM franchise just has. It seems like it's so hard to get right, and I don't know why, because it seems like such a basic concept to do.
Mhm.
The the requirements to make a successful Texas Chainsaw Massacre aren't that in depth. I feel like you can please the fans pretty easily, but they make all these odd, dumb choices that kind of just put everyone off, and it's hard to get on board with. To just like, they can have some cool kills and everything, but they inject weird stories into into the actual films themselves, and in inconsistencies, and it's very hard to get past and really enjoy the film. And there's always just these odd choices. Like we talked about the ending, like of the newest one. It's like why go that route? It's so weird.
Mhm.
Um, it just seems like this is one of the most basic stories, and no one can get it right. So it's like I think we're done here for a long time. There's no really reason to order one sequel, let alone two sequels. And it's like the same thing with Prey, where it's an IP, it's gonna be on Hulu. So like with this one, of course you're gonna get a lot of views initially until reviews come out, and then people are gonna be like, well, I don't know if I'm really gonna dedicate an hour and a half to it. So it's like, Prey, I hope is successful. And I mean, it looks like there's quality there at least. So it's just like, it's hard to bank on how the audience really feels, whether it's good or bad in terms of just views, because hey, I turn it on and I absolutely hate it, but I don't care enough to turn it off. I just leave the room and I go do something else. If that still counts as a view. Or if I just watch 15 minutes of it and I think it sucks, I don't know if that counts as a view. So I don't know exactly how they determine that, but
They never release how they do it. Like they never
so
release statistics on that stuff.
so it's like who knows if someone just turned it on and then turned it right back off. So because I just don't see, even though people have watched this, I don't think there was a lot of enjoyment to be had. So to say that there could potentially be two more sequels, I just think that's where, because they talk about it in all the slasher franchises where, you know, that part four did great. It was a great story, so part 5 did great financially, so it's like that hangover, where since this one was no good, I feel like even if you release it on streaming, a lot of people won't check out a sequel because they're like the idea of what the quality is already, I'm not even gonna bother turning it on. So I think you could really feel that impact if they do make a sequel. So, I mean, I just feel like let it rest for a while. Let the Sawyer family be dormant. Let's all forget about it. Maybe focus on something else. Maybe something new. I know that's hard to ask now, but um, I just don't think it's there. Whether you have some cool ideas or don't, I mean, take those ideas and maybe create a new slasher for us.
Yeah, and I mean it's just it's upsetting to me because I am a big Leatherface fan. I like the obviously the first two films. I've said it already twice, but like I want them to and it's weird. I'm of two mindsets. I think if this is going to streaming, there's a part of me that's like just let it die if you're going to continue with this route, but if you bring in new writers, new directors and they have a shot and they have a vision, you don't interfere, go ahead, let them give it a shot because there's definitely room to resuscitate this at this
Yeah,
point. But I'm telling you, like, this may be my final shot as far as like we need if they're gonna if they recast if they recast they rewrite and everything and they just try again, I will give it another shot, especially if it's on streaming and I don't have to pay for it. But if it is just a continuation of this story, I have no interest. I do not want a continuation to this last film.
yeah.
Like just bury it, leave it, like let it go.
And that's where, streaming be such a valuable asset. Again, going back to Prey, where it's like give a director who has a specific vision and talent to do what they want to do. You're not paying for I mean, I don't know if Prey is going to be theatrically released at all, but if it is, it's probably limited, I'm assuming. But if you're not really paying for that theatrical release, that saves you a lot of money already. So give them a small budget, say this is what it's going to be. You have free reign. We're going to put it on a streaming service to try and get that audience back. Let's do something different, something fresh, and go a different route with it. You don't have that much to lose, and you could potentially have a big hit on your hands. So, um, I don't know why they keep making these horrible decisions. So, I mean, like for me, I don't if another one, whether it's a reboot, a sequel, anything like that, I don't even know if I would give it the time of day. I would probably have to wait to see what everyone else was saying because I don't think I see myself turning on another Leatherface property cold and saying, "Let me see how I feel about this," because I've been burned way too many times.
No, I get it. I get it, and I think my consensus again is that this franchise is right about there. We are on the cusp of empty. We are on fumes at this point. Like the tank is going to run dry. So we'll see. I guess. I mean, maybe nothing comes of this.
Yeah.
It's just big talk, so we don't know. Netflix likes to throw their money around and say we're doing this, but we're not doing this, and then we're going to cancel this, and then we're going to cancel Mindhunter, and you're just going to have to put up with it.
Let's do a crossover of Leatherface, the Sawyer family, and Mindhunter.
Just
Done.
have them talking to Leatherface in a room.
There we go.
There
They're
you
like,
go.
"How was the orphanage?"
Fucking love it.
All right, let's move on to our last bit of news here. From Ghostface to Michael Myers to Leatherface, the last few years have marked the return of some of our favorite horror icons. Legacy horror has been the new phrase in the horror community and apparently at Blumhouse as well. Jason Blum stated in an interview with Screen Rant that he would be interested in taking a stroll down Elm Street and would even get Robert Englund himself to reprise the role of the iconic razor-fingered slasher. Do you want to see Robert Englund dust off the fedora one more time, or has Father Time caught up to the Nightmare Man?
I like that. I am of two minds again with this, but I think with this I lean a little heavier to I do really want to see them take a stab at this because why not? I mean, we haven't
Yeah,
seen Nightmare on Elm Street since the remake. This is a franchise that has been left dormant for I think long enough that I would like to see at least a take on this again. Um, Now, I have my own ideas of how I would do this, and I think that you could fit Robert Englund in beautifully. But what I would say, don't expect sequels for that one, which is tough because I mean, obviously, it's Blumhouse. They're going to want to franchise the hell out of this and, do like what they're doing with Halloween. And I guess on this flip side of that, we have Halloween, that franchise, which, we have thoughts on. Not the biggest fan of what they're doing with it, but then they released something like the Black Phone this weekend, which we loved. And so it's like they can do it. I just don't know if Michael Myers or Halloween was the right stab at it. So
yeah,
giving them Freddy, even saying he did say in that quote too that he wanted Friday the 13th also. So it's like if you could give him that, sure. Like I'd like to see what kind of creative minds he put behind it. Not David Gordon Green like he's doing with The Exorcist, which The Exorcist is that doesn't need any sequels in my opinion.
I
Like
don't think
I
so
think, I
either.
think we're good. But it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, let's see what you're doing, and I'd be open to it, but trepidatious.
Yeah, I think I'd be very intrigued. Because what the last time we've seen Robert Englund as Freddy theatrically was Freddy versus Jason, I believe.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say New Nightmare, but yeah, I forgot about that.
And I'm not a big Freddy versus Jason fan, but Robert Englund, anytime he portrays Freddy Krueger, is money to me. So it's like, even though I'm not a big fan of the film itself, I'm a huge fan of his performance. And to go back to New Nightmare, where that's a Freddy film,
Mhm.
I absolutely love that movie. We'll probably unpack that on the podcast at some point. So for his last film to be Freddy versus Jason, I feel like we didn't get the closure that I would like in a Freddy film, where just make it about him and one more story. So I would love to see what they can do if they got him back and Blumhouse got the rights to Nightmare on Elm Street, just to see what we can do. Because with the effects and things like that, I don't know necessarily if his age is going to matter that much. You just have
No.
to have Robert Englund deliver those one-liners and be present, and which I think he is more than capable of doing. Listening to him now, the man's lucid as ever. So it's like, and he has that love for the Freddy Krueger character. So regardless if he said he wouldn't be returning, and he's retired from that role, if they were like, "Hey, we have this idea and we really want you to come back one last time," I totally think he would be down to do it.
No, he's definitely game. I listened to the Halloweenies interview with him recently, and he is just such he's so humble, and he just loves being a part of this horror community, and just like the amount of love that they've shown him over the years. And
They
he just has a
reciprocate.
lot of fantastic insight. Like he honestly like I don't think he'd be interested in doing this, but like if he could run his own podcast just to interview some of the people he's worked with and just to have conversations with, like I could listen to it for hours.
Yeah,
Like Robert England is really interesting and just how his takes on things, the way he sees things, because he always approaches it from like, just how he saw it coming. Like he was right there during the slasher boom. Like he saw all of this come together. And I mean, he's just so loyal to this franchise and just to the slashers in general. And
yeah.
I'd love to see it. Now I know we like to do this from time to time, so I knew I was going to kind of spring this up on you. It's okay if you don't have that deep of an answer. We don't have to get that deep on here. How would you take this? Would you do a direct sequel? Would you Halloween 2018 it? Would you do all of a sequel to all the movies? A sequel to just the first one? Would you
Um,
remake it? What would you do?
I would definitely want it to be in line with the sequels. I'm not a huge fan of disregarding the past history of stuff. I just don't know how you would necessarily, I guess, intertwine New Nightmare because it's so meta that I don't know if you would have to ignore that one.
That one to me feels like it is its own thing. That
Yeah,
that is really like it. That's Nightmare on Elm Street in our world, in my
yeah.
opinion.
Because it's like one of the kind of ideas I've always played with, and I don't really have a long form necessarily idea for Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, I love the franchise, but it's never been in my my headlights to be like, okay, I definitely want to tackle a Nightmare on Elm Street um, film. But like it's when Stranger Things had originally come out, and to play with the ages there because it's always been such a teenage thing. When when the living man Freddy Krueger was, they were all younger kids at that time. So I had always kind of been intrigued maybe with the concept of like you just bring back not Nancy but one of the other characters, maybe I don't know who's gotten away, I'd have to look, but Freddy's all gone and forgotten in a sense, and she's now uh uh a teacher, so he starts haunting her students, and kind of going after to get to her, he's going through the kids. So I had always thought maybe that'd be an intriguing concept to kind of bring more terror back to it. But I would definitely want to uh it would be in line with those originals, not I would not want to reboot it in any sense, I don't think.
Did you hear about the Peter Jackson pitch for a Nightmare on Elm Street sequel, The Dream
Yeah.
Theater?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought that was always kind of cool. I think there's a lot of elements in there that would have been nice to see, especially the kids. I feel like before I get into it, I think that this is gone and past. I don't think you could really do this idea anymore. But the fact that the kids taking out and beating up Freddy and like really belittling him and taking over the dreams, like I thought that'd be a cool concept.
Yeah.
How I would tackle this, because I've been giving this a lot of thought since we settled on this being our final topic for the news week, is that I would love to take this in a way of like Elm Street's gone. They have renamed Elm Street. They are doing kind of what they did in Freddy versus Jason, but not to a better extent, not such a cheesy
Yeah.
extent of we are wiping this away from our history. We're moving on. And we're, God, what are we like almost 30 years removed from that aspect? And maybe for me, I might take everything up to Dream Warriors
Yeah.
and then cut it. Because I don't think that's such a bad idea. I think like, I want the story to work consistently. I don't want to have to force things just because other sequels did it. But the problem I have, like with the recent Halloween ones, is when you do that and then you just recycle ideas from those sequels that you cut out, it's kind of like, what are you doing? Why would
Yeah.
you do that? But I would love to see it as you don't see a lot of Freddy in this movie. I think that play with it in the dreams. I like the idea you have there of having an adult character that you kind of follow who's not having nightmares, but all these kids and all these people around them are, and you have to kind of really view it from that outside perspective. And I'd really like to have maybe they it's an urban legend at this point, and maybe they come across something that starts to give Freddy his power back,
Yeah.
and kids start having nightmares again. Like there's a lot of cool stuff you could play with that, but I think the big thing that you could do to really honor uh you know uh Robert Englund
Yeah.
and really give him a fun time with this is you can make Freddy really scary again by not showing so much of him.
Yeah.
Show what he's done, like show the aftermath, but hide him in those dreams. Like do that again, because like I feel like that's such the beauty of the first film is that we don't see Freddy like all that up close and personal till like the third act, really.
Yeah.
Like especially those early on segments, it's like he's there, he says some things, and he's terrifying, but he is all encompassing in your dreams. Like he controls everything. And it's like, I think that you really need to see that. So, like, that's kind of the route I would take with it, is
Th-
just kind of bring him back, but have him just have a slow build of his powers coming back and
Yeah.
starting to really, you know, take hold of all of this again.
So this is what we'll do. This is my pitch now that you've expressed your idea. We'll call it Nightmare Fuel, right? And it's about this kid that is obsessed with serial killers and all this business, and like he wants to write creative stories. So he's obsessed with Freddy Krueger and hearing all these stories about these urban legends. So he's like creatively writing these short stories about Freddy Krueger, but never getting any of them right. But there's always one little element that he's getting correct, and it's starting to give Freddy his power. And the stories are playing through dreams, and finally, like 30, 40 minutes in, it all comes together, and that's when Freddy shows up because he's firing on all cylinders, and that's what we'll
And
do.
see, like I had this concept of in my head. I didn't pitch it because I just like it's not fully developed. But since you bring that up, is either they discover or they subconsciously someone starts bringing the nursery rhyme back very slowly.
Yeah,
So it's just kind of like, maybe one of the ideas I had was like, again, I agree with you. I think we do focus the kids a little younger, make them like, if not freshmen in high school, like eighth, seventh, and eighth grade.
yeah,
Make those kids younger because that's scarier. And then just have one of them, or even just an adjacent friend to our group we're following, just humming the theme and just like you don't really he's like they're like where'd you hear that, like where did you get that? It's like, oh, just I don't know, it's just something I have. Because like again, I had heard a song a few weeks ago, and I just remember I woke up middle of the night to feed my son, and I was just humming this song, and I just was like, where the hell is this coming from? And I guess I just subconsciously picked it up while I was like at the grocery store or something, and I had to find the song to scratch that itch and satisfy it. So I was just like, that's interesting how we could work that in there. Like
yeah,
maybe Freddie is slowly piecing those things together to bring his legacy back.
yeah,
There's a lot of really great ideas you could do with this. And again, I think that we've had enough time. I think there's enough going on here. And, you know, even though I don't agree with all the decisions they have made with Halloween, I still think that Jason Blum is a competent producer. And I think that he'll be able to at least make these franchises profitable again. So
yeah,
that way we can get into, hopefully getting some decent sequels, follow ups, whatever you want to call it.
yeah. No, I think there's a lot left on the table there. There's a lot of space to play in, and I mean, like honestly, I feel like you could do it. What is it? Freddy's Dead. I mean, I can't even remember. It was a weird ending, I think, but we're so far removed from the franchise that I think an audience will pretty much accept anything, even if they're like, even if it restarts, as long as you're kind of open ended with it to be like, oh yeah, this is you know 30 years later, so whatever happened at the end of Freddy's Dead doesn't really matter anymore. So we're including it, but we're not really touching on it, and we're just kind of starting over, but it's in the universe in a sense. Um, I think that's the route you should go. It doesn't really I don't think it matters as much, but there is a lot to do here. In terms of journey, it's such a unique. I think this is the most unique of all the slashers.
Oh
But,
yeah,
and I think Robert Englund himself, the first film is so unique concept-wise, and I mean, they're all unique in a certain sense concept-wise, but I think after that, the success I mean, Robert Englund played such a huge part in that to bring that character to life, because if you had someone who didn't go 100% in that role, I mean, I don't think you would have gotten the mileage that you did out of it, so, I will go to the theater to see a new Nightmare on Elm Street as long as Robert Englund is there, reprising that role, just to see what they come up with because there's so much space to play.
absolutely. I definitely think there's, unlike Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's plenty of gas in this tank. Like let's
Exactly.
hit the accelerator, let's get going.
Let's do a trilogy. Come on, I'm for it.
Maybe. I don't know. Again, I don't want to push ourselves, but yeah.
I'll accept it.
Alrighty. Well, I guess we'll get into my little segment here, our final segment, towards the end of the show, as always, unless you have any final thoughts or anything.
Nope,
All right, cool.
you hit
So
it, Dylan.
Blu-ray and streaming. Again, another kind of a weaker week, I guess you could say. We were talking before the show even started, just like kind of what we could talk about, what we could really pitch, is what's been coming out, what's been announced. just a couple of things that crossed my radar. Big one being that Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is on Disney Plus, so you can check that out. You can also buy it digitally at the moment. Um, I bring this up again because we just covered Darkman on the podcast,
Yes.
which was very cool. I definitely enjoyed talking about that. That's such a unique film. It's Sam Raimi, so he's part of that horror alumni. We want to pimp out his stuff when we can. First film in 10 years. So, and I enjoyed it. I think it's great. Luke, you're going to finally get around to watching it.
Yes.
So
Which was one of the things I had intended to do it before the Dark Man podcast. I never got around to it. But now that it's streaming and available, I will be watching it here soon. So maybe we can do a little companion piece for the Dark Man podcast and just kind of talk about uh Multiverse of Madness and kind of see how it matches up with Dark Man a little bit. Maybe we'll see
yeah,
what happens. It's always
I'm
content.
curious. I'm curious your thoughts on that because I think like between the first time we brought it up and then the Dark Man podcast, I've kind of said my piece of it where it's nice to see Sam Raimi back, but it's not a full-blooded Sam Raimi film.
Yeah.
But you can really see and sense his style in the film, and it's very clear. So we have that, and then we have a Second Sight. You actually interacted on Twitter with a user about this, and Second Sight was going to be releasing Dog Soldiers on 4K. That got pushed back to August 22nd.
Yes.
So unfortunately, that will not be coming out as soon, but it will be getting there. Was there a reason? I didn't actually
Um,
pick that up.
It
Was
said they
it?
were waiting on approval for some of the special features. And it's a lengthy process, which, we had talked about it. I think it was on the podcast. I can't remember 100% where a lot of these Blu-rays don't really get commentaries or any extras anymore. So it's really nice to see, especially like stuff from so long ago to kind of getting new editions, fully remastered, and then just as many different special features as they can get. So I mean, if it means extra special features that it's gonna be pushed back a few months, I mean, you can't complain because
Yeah.
it's extra content. The the release itself looks gorgeous. The artwork is phenomenal. Just the bonus features are just jam packed. So it's definitely one I'm going to pick up. I had just actually picked up Dog Soldiers already, but then this was released. Of course, that's how that goes. So, but I
Always.
think I'm gonna splurge and I'm gonna get this one as well.
Yeah. So I mean, the only other thing that I could really say we had come out this week, not necessarily a horror film, but something that is genre related, and it was released by MVD Rewind, would be Vampire's Kiss. So movie I have not seen. I want to see it. I want to check it out. You have it on your Voodoo account,
I
so
do.
one of these days I'll get around to it.
And
But
I've
yeah,
seen some of it. I turned it on at a time when I couldn't fully commit to the film. I definitely want to go back and rewatch it because Nicolas Cage's performance in that is just absolutely bonkers. So I
mm,
really want to just sit down and give him my full attention because the things that I did see were just like off the wall.
that's what you come to expect when it comes to Nicolas Cage. But
I
yeah, so
love it.
another kind of a week in Blu-ray and streaming again, but hopefully we'll get there pretty soon. I know next week we'll probably be highlighting Stranger Things, so we'll see if we even have this segment. But I will keep my ear to the ground and hope that we get a nice announcement from Scream Factory. I think with the rejuvenation here of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, I really would love a companion piece to come with my Friday the 13th box set. I know that there was one teased late last year. Some images surfaced about a Friday the 13th box set from Scream
Yeah.
Factory. Nothing ever came of it though, so I don't know if that's coming still, if that's in the pipeline, or if that was just fan art that got taken off and ran crazy with for a couple days.
I would love to see what they can do if it ever comes to actuality. It would be great.
Oh
We
yeah,
need one.
100%. But yeah, that's about it for Blu-ray and streaming. And I guess I'll throw it back to you, Luke. That's about it for the show, I'd say, right?
Yeah, we ran through all the little bits of news, so hopefully we blended it up for you and you got a little horror smoothie here at the end of the show. Um we will be back, obviously, next Sunday, as always, with all your horror news. Dylan, why don't you hit us with all our social media real quick?
Yeah, so if you guys are looking for us, you can follow us on Twitter at SplattercastPod. Of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications so that way you guys can keep up with us. We are posting videos basically every week. At this point, you're at least going to get a Sunday Scaries from us. We have a couple of supplementary videos as well. Again, we just reviewed The Black Phone, so you can check out our full non-spoiler review on that and a show coming up for that sometime in the future. But yeah, other than that, you can check us out there. You can also find us on Spotify for your audio versions, as well as Amazon Music, Apple Music, and Stitcher. So yeah, and basically anywhere you can find your podcast, we post it. Yeah, so that about wraps us up. Give us a follow, give us some critiques, let us know what you thought of the stories we chose. What are your thoughts on Stranger Things? How do you think who's gonna die? What would you do for a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie? And is Texas Chainsaw just dead? Do we just need to leave that franchise in the dirt? Let us know. We
Dead and
always love the
buried.
conversation. So please reach out.
All right, well, until next Sunday, I'm Luke Janesco.
And I'm Dylan Newell.
And remember, stay scared.